And these two verses say, Yam imam pushpitam vacham pravadanti avipashchita vedavadurata partha nanyat astiti vadina karmatmana swargapura jnana karma falapradam kriya vishesha bahulam bhogaisvarya gatim prapti. Okay, so the English translation is the following. Men of small knowledge are very much attached to the flowery words of the Vedas, which recommend various fruitive activities for elevation to heavenly planet, resultant good birth, power, and so forth. Being desirous of sense gratification and opulent life, they, meaning men of smaller knowledge, they say that there is nothing more than this. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. People in general are not very intelligent, and due to their ignorance, they are most attached to the fruitive activities recommended in the Karma Kanda portions of the Vedas. They do not want anything more than sense gratificatory proposals for enjoying life in heaven where wine and women are available and material opulence is very common. Now, when it says heaven, we're not talking about the spiritual world. We're talking about the heavenly planets in the material world. In the Vedas, many sacrifices are recommended for elevation to the heavenly planets, especially the Jyotishtoma sacrifice. In fact, it is stated that anyone desiring elevation to heavenly planets must perform these sacrifices, and men with a poor fund of knowledge think that this is the whole purpose of Vedic wisdom. It is very difficult for such inexperienced persons to be situated in the determined action of Krishna consciousness, as fools are attached to the flowers of poisonous trees without knowing the results of such attraction. Unenlightened men are similarly attracted by such heavenly opulence and the sense enjoyment thereof. In the Karma Kanda section of the Vedas, it is said, Apama, Somam, Amrita, Abhuma, and Akshayam Ha Vai Chaturmasya Yajinai Sukritam Bhavati. In other words, those who perform the 4-month penances become eligible to drink the somarasa beverages to become immortal and happy forever. Even on this earth, some are very eager to have somarasa to become strong and fit to enjoy sense gratification. Such persons have no faith in liberation from the material bondage, and they're very much attached to the pompous ceremonies of Vedic sacrifices. They are generally sensual, and they do not want anything other than the heavenly pleasures of life. It is understood that there are gardens called Nandana Kanana, in which there is good opportunity for association with angelic, beautiful women and having a profuse supply of Soma Rasa wine. Such bodily happiness is certainly sensual. Therefore, there are those who are purely attached to such material, temporary happiness as lords of the material world. Okay, so this verse is second chapter, verses number 42 and 43. Yam imam pushpitam vacham pravadanti api paschitaha Veda Vada Rata Parta. So let's wait right there on that. Veda Vada Rata. What is that? Veda Vada Rata uh, refers to people who are supposed to follow the Vedas, but actually they are only follow the Vedas, parts of the Vedas that are promising them sensual pleasures. They're not real followers of the Vedas to make what you would call uh, very valid spiritual progress. They're more interested in the enticements of sensual pleasures that are also promised in the Vedas, but that's not the real purpose of the Vedas. Now, you might ask the question, well, how come Krishna put those enticements in the Vedas? Well, it's better than uh, being bestially, like a beast, uh, person who's engaged in sense gratification. At least the ones that follow the Vedic rites for achieving sense gratification have some measure of self control. Not a lot, but some. And it's better than the barbarians who have no principles of decency and cause havoc in society. Okay. So therefore, this verse says, men of small knowledge are very much attached to the flowery words of the Vedas, which recommend various fruitive activities for elevation to heavenly planets, result in good birth, power, and so forth. Being desirous of sense gratification and opulent life, they say that there is nothing more than this. And in the purport again, people in general are not very intelligent, and due to their ignorance, they are most attached to the fruitive activities recommended in the Karmakanda portion of the Vedas. Now, you might say, well, why did they put these Karmakanda portions of the Vedas if it's going to mislead people towards sense gratification? Well, uh, let's read a little bit more of the purport. It says, they do not want anything more than sense gratificatory proposals for enjoying life in heaven, where wine and women are available and material opulence is very common. In the Vedas, many sacrifices are recommended for elevation to the heavenly planets, especially the Jyotistoma sacrifices. In fact, it is stated that anyone desiring elevation to heavenly planets must perform these sacrifices, and men with a forefront of knowledge think that this is the whole purpose of Vedic wisdom. It is very difficult for such inexperienced persons to be situated in the determined action of Krishna consciousness. As fools are attached to the flowers of poisonous trees without knowing the results of such attractions, unenlightened men are similarly attracted by such heavenly opulence and the sense enjoyment thereof. In the Karma Kanda section of the Vedas, it is said, Apama Somam Amrita Abhuma and Akshayam Ha Vai Chaturmasya Yajina Sukritam Bhavati. In other words, those who perform the 4-month penances become eligible to drink the somarasa beverages to become immortal and happy forever. Even on this earth, some are very eager to have somarasa to become strong and fit to enjoy sense gratifications. Such persons have no faith in liberation from material bondage, and they are very much attached to the pompous ceremonies of Vedic sacrifices. They are they are generally sensual, and they do not want anything other than the heavenly pleasures of life. It is understood that there are gardens called Nandana Kanana, in which there is good opportunity for association with angelic, beautiful women, and having a profuse supply of Somarasa wine. Such bodily happiness is certainly sensual. Therefore, there are those who are purely attached to such material, temporary happiness as lords of the material world. Okay, so uh, what's being said here exactly is that the sense gratificatory proposals for enjoying life in heaven, where there's wine and women, are available, and material opulence is very common. So some people think that's the real purpose of the Vedas, to attain that type of opulent life and uh, having the opportunity to enjoy beautiful women and to increase that enjoyment, to have wine and so forth. And there are Vedic sacrifices recommended for elevation to the heavenly planets. The heavenly planets are not the spiritual world. You have three levels of planets in the material world: your heavenly planets, the middle planets, and the lower planets. So we're living in the middle planets. In the middle planets, there is sense gratification and there is the ability to become Krishna conscious. So that's the best place to be. If you're on the heavenly planets, the sense gratification is so strong that most people become so attached to it they can't give it up. And the third level, which are the demoniac planets, the suffering is so much that people can't get out. So in the middle are that's where we are now, these middle planets, where the sense gratification is not as intense as on the heavenly planets, and the suffering is not as intense on the lower planets. So we have a chance in the middle planets where there's a mix of suffering and happiness to make spiritual advancement. We're not overwhelmed by sense gratification like on the higher planets, and we're not overwhelmed by misery as the lower planets. So most people are not intelligent or not very intelligent because of their ignorance. They're attached to the fruitive activities recommended in the karma kanda portions of the Vedas. Now, the question is, why is there a karma kanda portion of the Vedas? Well, let's put it like this: it's an enticement. What's an enticement? It's something like in business, my dad had a business, and in order to get people to come into his grocery store, he would have certain things on sale. Like he would sell, 10 lemons for $1. Well, that would catch the attention of people, and they'd come in to buy, 10 lemons for $1. And sometimes they would buy, a can of spaghetti, and then they might buy something else and something else. So that way, just to get them to come into the store, he'd lose money on the let's say the lemons, but he'd make money on the other things that they would probably most likely take. So in the same way, these heavenly uh, the promise of heavenly pleasures is an enticement. So men of small knowledge are attracted to the flowery words of the Vedas, which recommend various fruitive activities for elevation to heavenly planet, resultant good birth, power, and so forth, being desirous of sense gratification and opulent life. They say that there is nothing more than this. I had a friend of mine, and he would talk to me a lot. He would call me almost every day to have a little bit of talk. And I'd always try and preach to him. And obviously, he didn't mind my preaching, but still, he was very attached to sense gratification. And he told me once, he said, "Look, Prabhu, I appreciate what you're telling me, but my only wish is that if I die, then I should come back and live in Medina like I am now." Medina, of course, is a prominent neighborhood in near Sammamish, where a lot of rich people live. So that was his real target that he's aiming for. Then go back to the spiritual world. He wanted to take birth over and over again in Medina. So this is the same thing here. It's that men of small knowledge are very much attached to the flowery words of the Vedas, which recommend various fruitive activities for elevation to heavenly planets, result in good birth, power, and so forth, being desirous of sense gratification, opulent life. They say that there's nothing more than this. Well, that's what my friend used to tell me also. He said, if I die, I want to come back to Medina, you know. But for him, Medina was heaven. That, of course, is silly, but people think like that. And I'm giving you a real example of that. So that's why people who are attached to sense gratification are not very intelligent. And due to their ignorance, they are attracted to the fruitive activities recommended in the Karma Kanda portion of the Vedas. They do not want more than sense gratificatory proposals for enjoying life in heaven, where wine and women are available and material opulence is very common. Now, the women listening to this lecture today might say, well, wait a minute. Why does it always say that the men are going to enjoy wine and women? Why can't the women enjoy wine and men? See, so this is this is what's happened today. The women want to be the enjoyers just as much as the men want to be the enjoyers, and usually uh, this let's say frenzy for sense gratification or enjoyment really puts people in difficult situations, such as, sometimes men are cheating on their wives, sometimes the wives are cheating on the men, and so forth. And it destroys families and it creates chaos uh, in the family tradition. What is the family tradition? The family tradition is man and a woman get married. Let's say that the man is 20 years old and the woman is 18 years old. They get married, and the priest asks them, or the minister asks them to repeat, uh, and they have to say that we will stay together forever, uh, in marriage. That it's the vow of marriage. It's a promise to always stay together. So uh, that's a very serious vow. And many times people do keep it. You hear the couple who just died were married 65 years and were always faithful to each other. Uh, but there are other people now, unfortunately, in America now, 50% of marriages are broken by divorce. And then those people who get divorced, if they get married again, then 67% of those marriages are broken. And amongst that 67%, if they get married again, then 78% of the marriages are broken. So it's better not to uh, break your first marriage, because there's a good chance that you the other marriages that you do, they also will be broken. So that's not intelligence. That's very uh, and why does that happen? Is because people are more interested in sense gratification than in uh, developing love for God. So if you have a husband and wife that work together to worship God, there's a very good chance that they'll never be separated. They'll keep the vow of marriage, which is there shall not be any separation in this lifetime. So, and not only that, there's a possibility also of being eternally together in the spiritual world if they both are, you know, following all the rules and regulations of spiritual life. So the uh, the attraction to these karma kanda, uh, let's say, promises in the Vedas can seriously mislead people. In this purport, it says the karma kanda section of the Vedas is said. In the karma kanda section of the Vedas, it is said, apama sonam, somam, amrita abuma, and akshayam ha by chaturmasya yajina sukritam bhavati. In other words, those who perform the 4-month penances, what are those 4 months? They are, uh, uh, I forget, I think it's like September, and then October, November, December, I think.
Chaturmasya, Maharaj.
Chaturmasya, yeah. So, and it says here that those who perform the 4-month penances become eligible to drink the soma rasa beverages to become immortal and happy forever. Well, you don't become immortal, but if you drink soma rasa,
Actually, it starts from June, July.
oh, June, July, okay,
Ending in October.
okay. Actually,
Yes, it ends in the same as the end of, it concludes on the Ekadashi in the month of Kartik.
okay, okay. So when it says that you'll attain, uh, immortality, you don't attain immortality, but it every time you drink soma rasa, it can give you strength and youth for 10,000 years. So that might seem like immortality, but it's not really immortality. And in this purport, it says, even on this earth, some are very eager to have soma rasa to become strong and fit to enjoy sense gratification. Well, uh, you have to go to the moon to actually drink soma rasa, because the moon is a heavenly planet, as opposed to what the astronomers say. But it's a heavenly planet, and that's where the demigods go to drink soma rasa. So to increase their duration of life and to be able to enjoy sense gratification more intensely. However, so such persons have no faith in liberation from material bondage. The people who want to drink the somarasa and enjoy more intense sense gratification and for a much longer time, they're attached to the Vedic ceremonies that promises these things, but they're really very sensual people, and they don't want anything other than the heavenly pleasures of material life. And there are places called Nandana Kanana, which are gardens of heavenly ladies and men who are enjoying the sense gratification. So some people think, oh, this is real heaven. It's not heaven, but it's a place where there is intense sense gratification, and of course, they're able to drink the stoma rasa wine. So being attached to such things only gives temporary happiness. And although it seems to be very intense, actually, it leads to increasing your lifetimes in the material world. So there's such a thing as the Ferris wheel syndrome. The Ferris wheel is something when you sit in the chair, it makes you go up, and then it comes back again down. And then it goes up again, and then it comes down again. So that's what these people are actually experiencing. They go up and down in the cycle of birth, death, old age, and disease. And sometimes, and when they're up, they're enjoying a lot of sense gratification, and sometimes when they're down, they're suffering tremendously. So that's called the Ferris wheel syndrome. So it's only that is for people who are really overwhelmed by sensual pleasures, pleasing the senses. So what's the difference between a person who's Krishna conscious and a person who's not Krishna conscious? Well, the person who's not Krishna conscious is trying to please his or her own sense. And a person who is Krishna conscious is trying to please the senses of Krishna. Krishna also has senses. And if we please Krishna's senses, then we'll be completely satisfied because we are part and parcel of Krishna. We've come from Krishna and we'll go back to Krishna eventually. So by pleasing the senses of Krishna, that's why we have deities, that's why we have artis, that's why we have, changing the clothes of the deities, feeding the deities. If we please the senses of Krishna, then our senses will also be pleased, and we have a very good chance of going back to God. Then there is the Chaturmasya period, where different types of sacrifices are performed in each month. Different sacrifices are performed in each of the 4 months of the Chaturmasya. And it's a time when people can make let's say, more spiritual advancement by engaging in certain types of tapasya. And then it says in here, in other words, those who perform the 4-month penances of Chaturmasya become eligible to drink the somarasa beverages to become immortal and happy forever. Well, they don't become immortal, but it does increase their lifespan. And it says happy forever. You don't become happy forever, but you can become happy sensually for a long time. But even those people who drink somarasa, they will eventually get old, sick, and die. So it's simply a diversion. Look that word up, diversion. It takes your attention away from what is the real goal of spiritual life. And someone will say, well, this is spiritual also. We're performing some things that are said to be, that are in the Vedas, in the karma kanda section of the Vedas. What does it say with that
The
word?
act of diverting or turning aside from a course or a direction. It involves changing the focus or path from one thing to another.
Exactly. So it's a diversion. To be attracted by the flowery words of the Veda, of some parts of the Vedas, where there's promise of living in heavenly planets, where there's heavenly ladies and wine and this and that. But that's not the goal of life, because you're still in the material world and you're still subject to birth, death, old age, and disease. So this karma kanda section of the Vedas, why is it there? Why is it in the Vedas? Well, it's to entice the people, but the idea is by being enticed by the karma kanda section, at least they're going to follow some Vedic principles, and there's a chance that if they are instructed by bona fide gurus, they can learn gradually that this sense gratification on the heavenly planets is not the real purpose of life. And there's a much greater happiness in the spiritual world, but it's not based on sense gratification. It's based on developing pure love and devotion for Krishna. So it's like a stepping stone. It's just like my dad. He would always put something on sale in his grocery store. So, every week it was a different sale. So one week it'd be, 10 lemons for $1. People would buy, come in to buy 10 lemons for $1. And then they would buy, a bottle of ketchup, and then they'll buy something else. And in that way, he would get people to come into the store to get the the things on sale, and at the same time they would buy other things also. So basically, it's like that. It's the enticement of in more intense sense gratification, but you have to follow some rules and regulations. The Karma Kanda section of Vedas also have rules and regulations, and then everything depends on if you have a bona fide guru or not. If you have a so-called guru who is simply talking about all the material benefits you'll get by doing some meditation or this thing or that thing, then you'll never make spiritual progress. The little progress you make is not something that's going to be lasting. However, if you have a bona fide guru that brings you gradually to pure Krishna consciousness by first giving some enticement of the Karma Kanda section of the Vedas, and then eventually telling you, but look, this is not the real purpose of the Vedas. The real purpose of the Vedas is much greater than the Karma Kanda section of the Vedas. So that's why there is a Karma Kanda section. It's like, you know, it is an enticement to help people come a little bit closer to Krishna consciousness. And if they have a bona fide guru, then he will explain as time goes on that this is not the real purpose. The real purpose is pure love and devotion for Krishna. There are some people that will not come to Krishna consciousness if right from the beginning they have to follow all the rules and regulations, and there's no, in their eyes, there's no enticement for them to come to Krishna consciousness. So there has to be something that entices them, that gives them some attraction. But once they begin to do even a little bit of devotional service, they begin to get purified, and then little by little, they accept everything in Krishna consciousness. It's a gradual process. Okay. Are there any questions? All right.
Any questions on that? What time?
Okay. Are we? Oh, here we're out of time. All right. Well, we will catch up on this tomorrow on text 44. The text 44 is a really nice verse. I'm just going to read it very quickly, and then we'll talk about it tomorrow. In the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence, and who are bewildered by such things, the resolute determination for devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place. So, if we become too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence, and we're bewildered by such things, there's a good chance that we will never never have the determination to engage in devotional service for the pleasure of the Lord. Okay, we'll stop right there. And thank you very much. Please chant Hare Krishna and be happy. And take a look at this verse for tomorrow. Second chapter, verse 44. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hari Bol.